The International Change Now Climate Summit has wrapped up here in Paris, and one standout moment was the Africa for Change programme. It brought together top African leaders and changemakers from more than 10 countries, all focused on boosting collaboration and driving collective climate action. Well, among them was Elizabeth Wathuti. She was named one of Time's 100 climate leaders in 2025. She's the founder of the Green Generation Initiative, one of Africa's fastest growing youth-led climate organisations. Well, Elizabeth joins me now in the studio. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for coming in to speak to us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so your organisation, the Green Generation, focuses on the next generation, on raising the next generation to be environmentally conscious. Tell us about the work that you do.
So at the Green Generation Initiative, we focus a lot on implementing climate solutions on the ground with young people, with children, with local communities. And our work involves restoration of the degraded water catchment areas and also protecting the water at the source, working with the communities. And we are also supporting the scale of youth-led innovations across the African community and the entire continent, especially through one of our programs that is the Africa's Next Green Leaders Accelerator program.
And tell us whether you get support from the government. Obviously, you're doing, what is critical work at the moment. Are the government putting an effort into what you're doing?
Yes, one of our initiatives is deeply connected to being able to collaborate with the government as well, because the work we do in terms of restoration also involves us working on restoring the public lands, especially the forest landscapes. And so we work closely with the governments, with for instance, the Kenya Forest Service in Kenya, and also the Ministry of Environment, so that we can be able to scale our work in the different sectors that we are in.
And of course, Kenya has been experiencing devastating floods recently. What's the situation like at the moment there?
So, of course, in the recent years, we have seen how frequent and extreme the weather patterns have been. So whenever we have the rainy seasons, they're very extreme, and it leads to the flooding situations, displacing people and displacing the communities. And we've also seen when we have the drought situations, they're so prolonged and they continue to really impact, especially the semi-arid and arid areas. And of course, the huge impact is being seen especially among the children and the women who have to walk further and further for long distances to look for water. And recently we had the extreme rainy seasons where we had flooding situations and a lot of people were impacted, even in the cities.
Now, some say that Africa is has often approached the conversation of climate change as more of a victim to inadequate funding, to tackle some of the issues that it's going through. Do you think the continent needs to demonstrate more ambition when it comes to climate change?
I actually think the world needs to begin seeing Africa for what Africa is, because even though Africa is the most impacted by the climate crisis, there are a lot of solutions that the African continent is already leading on the ground every day. Africa is the youngest continent in the world, and the young people in the continent are also driving a lot of initiatives and solutions on the ground to address the climate crisis. And so I feel the world is supposed to now align and begin to see Africa as that solution provider, because the continent is not just sitting by, but we have a lot of initiatives, a lot of innovations, and a lot of solutions that are being driven by communities on the ground. And all of these solutions are homegrown solutions. So I believe it is an opportunity for the world to begin to see Africa as the continent that is driving the green transition.
Well, you talked about some of those innovations that are going on. Is there anything going on around you that, apart from your organization, that you're seeing that excites you when it comes to the fight against climate change in Africa?
Absolutely. I have seen a really huge transition, especially on how we translate the local solutions that we have on the ground into using that to influence and push policy even on the global forums. And this is really being spearheaded by young people in a big way, influencing policy not from a point of just telling people to do something different about the climate, but to actually showcase what is working in our communities. And there's a lot of young people that are innovating in the fields of energy, on climate resilience, just supporting the communities to build their own resilience to the climate crisis. And we have a lot of solutions as well when it comes to the sustainable agrosystems, setting up the permaculture learning and feeding models for schools to be cautioned when we have the drought situations, to enable the schools to have food security. And also there are a lot of opportunities and innovations as well in the fields of water, trying to get communities to access clean drinking water.
Well, I would be really interested in finding out where your message is getting through to young people, some more like concrete examples. Yeah. Talk to us about the young people that are taking up your message and actually having a real impact in their communities.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of young people really stepping up to address the challenges within their communities. And what we've seen is people being able to understand that even though I'm so frustrated by the challenges that are happening in the world today, I can do something about it. And we're seeing a lot of young people organizing and coming together. We just had the second Africa Climate Summit in Ethiopia, and there was a huge movement of young people organizing the Africa Youth Climate Assembly, coming together to take conversations to the leaders, to the heads of state within the African continent, and to actually showcase the solutions that the young people are bringing to these forums. And right now, it is a big movement where young people across the entire continent are organizing themselves. They're coming together, pushing and influencing policy, but also showcasing and demonstrating what it is that we can be able to achieve and bring to the world in terms of being able to address the impacts of the climate crisis, solutions on biodiversity, and also to be able to demonstrate that it is not just a young continent, but it's a young continent with young people that have numerous solutions and innovations that can be able to transform the world.
Well, listening to you, Elizabeth, I very much get the feeling that you're hopeful. I mean, in the face of all the things that we're seeing flooding in Kenya, but we're also seeing extreme droughts in Somalia, for example. Tell us about your hope for the future of Africa when it comes to climate change.
My hope for the future of Africa is, one, for the world to begin to see the African continent for what the African continent is, that despite being the continent that has done the least to contribute to the climate crisis with about 4% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, that the continent is also driving solutions that can actually enable the green transition in the world. And so we need to begin to also address critical issues that are going to enable the African continent to effectively participate in the green transition. And there are things that we have to address, the issues of finance. How do we ensure that climate finance actually scales and goes down to the community levels where the real work is happening on the ground, and the issues of the debt crisis where the African continent countries are having to redirect money that is supposed to go towards development and taking that to address the impacts of the climate crisis. And that is not something that we could say is fair. And the aspect of mistrust. So we need to be able to address all these critical gaps. And this is going to enable the African continent to continue as well participating and engaging in the green transition, because already these solutions are working and the continent is already leading in the green transition today.
Well, Elizabeth, good luck with the work that you do. It sounds like you're having a great impact. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme and talking to us about your initiative. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from all of us on the Eye on Africa team. Stay with us here on France 24. Plenty more news to come.